Welcoming back Ray Sefo, the president of World Series of Fighting, to MMAOddsBreaker. Big tournament coming up for you guys November 20th in Arizona. You're a huge veteran of this. I mean, you've had like 50 fights, right, in one day tournaments, but MMA has not really gone to that. It kind of fell away from that kind of mindset. Was there any problems trying to get this 8-man tournament put together as far as the athletes going, I really don't want to fight twice in one night or 3 times in one night?
No, when we brought up the idea and to the guys that we have on the card, that's going to be the 8 guys contesting, and the fact that the ultimate goal is when you win, you get to fight for the title. Everybody was up for it, and so I mean, even I'm not sure if we had Brian Foster, but after his knockout last time. I mean, he came out and put a guy away less than, I think, 40 seconds, I think it was. And he was, he was all up for it. And Luis Palomino, he's still in the mix as well. That was right after, his loss against Justin Gaethje. And he still believes that he has what it takes to be champion. And so, it's one of these things where we basically just kind of like handed it to the guys and said, "You guys, I'm totally up to you guys. You can decide," and they were all up for it.
And you talk about Palomino and Foster and Pashnak and Zerafino on one side of the bracket, and the other side of the bracket is going to be Brian Cobb, Mike Ricci, Islam Madaf, and Jorge Patino.
Right.
That's like, how did you come up with the brackets? Was this blind draw putting these guys, or was there some negotiations, some conversations going on for which bracket and which side the guys are going to be put on?
No, Ali and I just kind of sat down and just looked at who was there and what we thought that would make for an interesting fight and for an entertaining fight. And so, I mean, all the 8 guys are, they're well-rounded, they're veterans of the game, and so I think it was just we try to keep it so where it's entertaining and also, again, it's one of these things where, like, for example, the quarterfinals, and so that the timing suits everybody. The quarterfinals it's only 2 rounds.
Right. It's 2 5-minute rounds, right? And then the semis and the finals go back to 3 5-minute rounds. Okay.
Correct.
And elbows not allowed in the quarters and semis?
Correct. And the reason why I think somebody tweeted about that they weren't interested or weren't going to look at it because of that reason. But I also replied to him saying that there's no elbows in the quarters and the semifinals. The mere reason is because, you're going to have a guy that wins a fight and gets cut in the last 10 seconds of the fight, goes ahead to win, but can't continue because of the cut. So we figured that, if anything that's going to happen, taking away the elbow is going to prevent that from happening. And then, if it happens in the finals, during the finals, you know what I mean? So we just thought that was the best way to do that.
And that's kind of the way that most promotions are doing their tournament action. There's no elbows in the quarters and semis, and then once you get to the finals, it's full rate. ABC
right.
commission rules.
Yeah, I didn't know that, but that's good to know. That means that we're thinking along the same lines.
If you want to have guys fight more than one time in a night, you got to pull elbows out. You kind of have to. A guy will get cut from a knee.
Right.
Just as easy as it will from an elbow, but it's so much harder to throw a knee to a guy's head.
Exactly. And you can't throw a knee to a guy grounded anyway. So
it makes it a lot easier with a guy on his back. You can drop a couple elbows and you'll rip him wide open.
Exactly.
He may still win the fight, but he's not going on to the next round.
Right. And so that was the main reason for not having the elbows in the first and the second.
Now, speaking of not being able to go on to the next round, do you guys have an alternate fight on this card as well?
Right. And so the way we've done it is if the winner can't continue, the loser of that fight will get the option to continue.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. If the loser, and this is exactly what we did in K1. And so if the loser doesn't want to continue, then we also give the opportunity to the loser from the other side. If they don't want to continue, then we'll go to the alternate winner and give him an opportunity.
So it's actually possible to fight the same guy twice in one night. Because you could lose to him and then get pulled over to the other bracket and win through the other bracket and then meet that same guy in the finals. So lose him in the quarters and then have to fight him again in the finals, which actually becomes very interesting because now it becomes in the fighter IQ. How much did I learn from the first loss? Am I able to come back from that first loss? And I don't have 6 months or a year to plan for this second fight. I've got 6 hours. Or it's like, well, what time is the quarterfinals going to go off? What time is the first quarterfinals?
I believe we're looking at.
I believe the first fight is 5
o'clock Arizona time, and then the first quarter is right after the first fight. Okay, so it'll be like 5:30, quarter of 6, and then then the final that night, 10 o'clock. So you basically have 4 hours to figure it out. That's not that much time to change your game plan. So this becomes very interesting if somebody gets crossed over, loses and gets crossed over and gets pulled across, and it's MMA. It's very probable this could happen. Somebody's going to win and be like, dude, I broke my foot. Somebody's going to win and be like, I broke my hand. They go back and get checked out by the doctor, and the doctor's like, this guy can't continue. He's done. Like, he can't.
Exactly.
So that could very easily happen.
Yeah, no, exactly. And we wanted to make it as interesting as possible and obviously entertaining as well. And the fight game, you really already don't know who could come through. I mean, there's certain people that people may have a pick who their favorites are, but I've been in enough tournaments to know that can never. It's never a case where that the strongest will come out on top. You know what I mean?
It never, that the MMA math never works correctly.
Right.
So let's talk about finances. If you have 8 guys competing on the same card, but they're going to compete multitude of times, does that lower the overall purse then for the card? Because these guys are faulting them up. You're not going to pay a guy $100,000 for the quarters, $110,000 in the semis, and then $200,000 in the finals. There's going to be a smaller rate that you're going to pay him. So does this help out with the overall budget of the show because you have a one-night tournament going on?
Well, I mean, the first quarters, their first fight is actually whatever their contract is, right? And then I think then the winner advances, and then it becomes I think I can't remember exactly, but I think it was like they win an extra 10 grand on top of that. And then when they make it to the final, whoever comes out top wins an extra 20 grand, I think it is.
Okay, so it's actually reasonable, but it's also less in theory than what you would normally be paying for those extra 2 fights. So it does help out in the bottom line for World Series of Fighting.
Right.
Because you guys are in a weird position. We have the UFC, we have Bellator. The UFC's got their own network essentially with Fox and Fight Pass. Then you've got Spike, and then we have World Series of Fighting, kind of fighting for that next space. How has it been, trying to really get in there and battle? And you're still training guys. You're still having to go corner other guys in different promotions. So it's like you see how these other things are being run. What's it like right now from the president's chair of the organization? Trying to you're never going to challenge or really get on equal level playing ground with the UFC. It's just.
Well, I mean, they're 23 years ahead of us.
And basically, over $1 billion in spending. Like, unless you got $1 billion to go ahead and spend right now, you're not going to catch them. And no one has that kind of money, nor should you. But to get that foothold and get that feeding, because it seems like for me sometimes, I'm looking at your roster, and I'm going, after Justin Gaethje beats this guy, who does he have left? Like, there's no one left for him. And there's no one for you to pick up. That's the other problem. So what's it like from your chair going, I've got to get deeper people in this weight class, and I've got to find, the third contender, the fourth contender, the fifth contender, just in case. Like, what's it like from your chair trying to find all this stuff?
Well, I mean, when you talk about talent, there's always talent, and when I say that is, it's a matter of looking at whether that talent is marketable, whether he's suitable for the American market, and so on. And so, for example, we just signed another guy, Russian kid. He's 16-1. And we're constantly getting emails. There's another 55er. He's 20-5, I think it is, out of Bulgaria. And so, there's a lot of talent out there. It's just a matter of really finding them, um, and whether whether he's marketable or suitable for our market. You know what I mean, or where we are. And so, when you look at the tournament, for example, Mike Ritchie, who's a huge name, Brian Foster, Luis Palomino, Joel Sefrin. These are legitimate guys. They're so. I don't, I don't think we're ever going to run out of talent, but I think it's just a matter of, again, going back to continuing to learn from what we see and from the mistakes we make, and can we change this to make this better? So and like I said from the beginning, for us it's a matter of challenging ourselves to get better and better each time we put on a show.
So I have to ask, there's so much talent, of course, now, obviously, because I'm in Hawaii right now. I'm here till at least till July. So I see the talent. I see the guys out there training. How come I don't see, you're going to Bulgaria and you're going to Russia and you're bringing these guys in from over there. How come you're not bringing guys in from Hawaii, which is just it's another state. It's not another country. Or going over to Asia and grabbing guys from Japan or from Korea. Like I really see you guys being more Eastern European centric, as opposed to like kind of grabbing from everywhere. Is there a reason why you're not, let's just start with Hawaii. Is there a reason why you're not grabbing guys from Hawaii?
We did have a couple of guys from Hawaii on our roster. Matter of fact, there's another kid that we're talking to right now who's from Hawaii. And, and he's an up and coming tough kid. He trains out of Extreme. So, it's not that we're not looking there, but also we understand that that's why I'm saying, like, there's a lot of talent outside of this region that we're in. You know what I mean? And the more we looked outside, the more we found all these, amazing talent. And if you look at, let me see, what's my sheet right here. Islam, for example, he's 12-1. You know what I mean? So, and yet his game is just solid, and he comes out and he comes to fight and he comes to win. These are the guys that just looking for an opportunity to come to the U.S. and fight.
Do you remember, like, maybe 5 years ago when we were like, this Russian kid, he's 18-1, who's he fought? Like, who do we really care? And then all of a sudden there was an explosion of all these Russians and Bulgarians and Czechs, and all of a sudden you're like, this guy's 12-1. He's a legit 12-1. You got to watch out. Do you remember that change happening? Because you were president of World Series of Fighting when that happened. It was kind of like, who cares? He's Russian. Who's he really fought? So all of a sudden, we have to get that guy because he's like the next big star.
Right. And that's the thing. It's funny you said it, because our 125 champion, Biblitov, he's an unknown name here in the U.S. And I think his fight record is, again, 10-0 or 12-0. Yeah, and we, he fought Donovan Freelo, and Freelo has fought for Wizards of Fighting 2 or 3 times already, and has come out on top and won his last fight by first round. I think it was a rear naked choke, could have been a guillotine actually, and that fight was an amazing fight. It was one of the best fights I've seen in a long time, because these two guys. I knew they're small guys. I knew they were gonna, it was gonna be action, but man, there was a lot of skills involved, and there was the speed of of them throwing their combination and the way they were putting things together was incredible. It was really it was amazing. And he's from Chechnya.
Yeah, it's been, there's so many Eastern Europeans out there we don't know anything about. So many French we don't know anything about, and then all of a sudden start talking about, you add in Korea, you add in China. We kind of had a run with China a little bit, and we just realized that the skill level is just really far behind. There's a lot of countries out there that have a multitude of talent that we just don't know about living over here in the U.S. Let alone, we're still talking about Mexico and Canada, which is still part of North America. We still don't know.
Right, exactly. One of the things that really impressed me a lot about this kid, Biblitov, is that not only he was throwing spinning back kicks, spinning hook kicks, you don't see much of that in an MMA fighter. And yet this guy, is doing all the traditional stuff from his Kyokushin karate background. His wrestling is, second to none. So it's really good to see guys mix the game up like that, and really good to see how the game's evolved so much that these guys are putting all the traditional arts together with their ground game.
So let's change gears real quick because you obviously an OK1 fighter. Coker took over K1 kind of for the U.S. Goes out, he's back. All of a sudden, he's doing this deal with Sakakibara, where he used to be for those of you at home that don't know, Sakakibara used to be the head of Pride. And I worked in commentary for Pride, and all of a sudden, UFC buys him out. He's got a no-compete clause for several years. The moment it's up, all of a sudden he's got Riza, whatever he's got, and Fedor's back, and all of a sudden now he's the main event, and it becomes this whole thing. Is it tough when a guy that you respect like Scott Coker, a guy that you know and a guy that you're friend with, to go like, I'm actually competing against him. Like I'm trying to get the same guys he's trying to get. I'm trying to get the same. Is it friendly competition? Or do you sometimes get up and go, all right, today I really got to get this guy if you guys are bidding for the same athlete?
Scott's my boy. I mean, we've known each other for over 20 years, and when I fought for my fourth world title, Scott was actually the guy that actually was the ISK rep that sanctioned that fight. And that's how I met Scott. And so, Evan and him being part of K1 as well, I got to know him through the years, and he's a very good friend. And I don't see that becoming, Scott is a veteran, and he's a very smart, intelligent guy. And so I try and learn as much as I can from him, as well as anybody else has anything promising to offer. You know what I mean? And so for me, I don't look at it competing against him. I look at it, if he happens to sign somebody before I do, great. At some point, maybe, he released the guy. Maybe I end up signing him. I don't know. But I don't really look at it as a competition, so to speak.
Well, speaking of competition, Fedor, to my knowledge, as of right now, still doesn't have an opponent. I saw someplace recently you said you would love to fight again. If they called you and said, "Hey, we want you to fight Fedor on New Year's Eve," would you go take it? Because we're looking at, was it today, November 2nd today? So it's not that long to get ready to train for a guy like Fedor. Would you take that fight?
No. You know why? Because if you had asked me this question 2 months ago, I'd be like, absolutely. If they had called 2 months ago, I have a lot more time to prepare for. You know what I mean? But Fedor is, I got a lot of respect for the man and nothing but love and respect for him. But he's also the kind of guy you don't just jump in the cage or in the ring with. You got to be 100% ready, because I've seen him fight many a times live, and he always comes to fight, So he's the type of guy you never take lightly.
How do you think Fedor is going to fare now in the world heavyweight division? Take all the heavyweights and all the organizations. Where do you put him? I mean, where do you think he'll be ranked right now?
Well, now that's a good question. I mean, there's some amazing fighters out there, and I really don't know. I mean, in his Pride days when Pride was there, I mean, he was the man. You know what I mean? And so I really don't know where. I mean, I'm sure that all the martial arts fans still look at him as one of the greats, and it really doesn't matter where he's ranked or where he's going to go. He is coming to probably the last 2-3 years of his career, if that. So I still look at him as one of the greats, no matter what he does in the next year or so. You know what I mean? Because he fought at his prime, he fought the best of the best in his prime, and he was the man. He was the man to beat. He was the champion for a very long time.
Yeah, he's an amazing athlete, but there's the question, ring rust. He didn't do very well in his last couple of fights before he retired, took his long absence from the sport. So it's going to be interesting to see how Fedor does. But last question before I let you out of here. You have a great lightweight co-main event on this card coming up on November 20th in Arizona. Jason High is coming to fight for you again versus Esteban Payan. How do you see? Are you excited about this fight when you put it together? Were you like, wow, this is a great fight to have? And I know you don't. I know you don't want to be biased. Like I know you want to kind of not, but this is one of those fights you can't be on the fence. You kind of got to pick one side or the other in this one because of the way these guys fight, right?
Right. And that's the good thing about being in my position. You can't be on the fence.
Yeah, well, you shouldn't be on the fence. You should be off the fence. But I get it. I mean, I understand you don't want to be biased and lean towards, especially when it comes to contract negotiations later, if one guy's like, hey, you were picking me to lose all the time, they get a little bit tougher in negotiation. So I get it. But this is a fight that's really going to be polarizing.
Well, you see, I actually don't know too much about Bayon. I mean, I've seen him fight. He's definitely the real deal. But I know Jason Hyatt. I've seen him, fight many a times. He's a very explosive athlete. And he's the type of guy, when he comes on, he's very dangerous. He's, he can beat anybody. He's just, he's one of those fighters where if it's his night, he's going to look amazing, and so, and, vice versa with his opponent. And so it's just one of those things where I think it just depends on, again, it's the fight game. Sometimes you come out and fight could end in 30 seconds. It could end in, it could go to distance. So for me, really, it's hard to pick.
I like this fight. I like the card you put together. I'm very interested to watch how this 8-man tournament pans out. And I'm really, really interested to see somebody get hurt and and they go back to the loser on the other side and get crossed back over and see what happens for that rate. I'm really hoping I don't want anybody to get hurt. Like, I'm not saying that, but I definitely want to see somebody get crossed over and get sent through. I think that's going to be awesome to see how that kind of pans out. So.
Well, yeah, no, exactly. And this is where, I did an interview last week. And I think the question was, what do you think that these guys need to come out and talk about? And I think everybody trains 6 days a week. Everybody trains wrestling, jiu-jitsu, stand-up, whether it be kickboxing, boxing. But not everybody focuses too much on the mental side of things. And in the tournament, you got to be in a different level of your mental game, because you're not just fighting one guy. You're fighting 3 guys to become the winner, the number 1 contender. And so, and the only reason why I say that is because my first tournament was tough mentally. And because I won the fight, I was all busted up, and I knew I had to come back out and face the next, I can't remember who it was, but it could have been Jerome Urbano or Ernesto Hoods or Peter Hertz, but those are kind of level of guys that you're fighting. And so you really have to go to another mindset. And now, I had never been to that level of mindset, up to that point. You know what I mean? Because sure, I've done some Kung Fu tournaments and what have you, but it's a little bit different. And so when I got to that level, I was like, oh, okay. So then I had to really dig deep inside and really, stay focused and come out and battle again.
That's Ray Sefo, President of World Series of Fighting. The next matchup is November 20th, coming up in Arizona. Ray, thanks so much for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks, bro.
Good to talk to you, brother. And next time I get back in Vegas, we'll definitely hang out.
Sounds good.
Talk to you soon.
Take care. Bye-bye.